gives to his beloved bread when they sleep. Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless this council meeting and give assurance to those who work in your will that all things work for the good for those who trust in you. May we never labor in vain, so that we might always trust in you and see the good work that we have begun brought to fulfillment in your providence through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, with that, we move into the reading of the minutes. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes from the work session on June 15th? If there's no objection, we'll consolidate A and B. Is there any objection to consolidating those two minutes? Seeing none. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes for both as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. Moving to our appointments for the Christmas Commission.
You guys hear me?
Do we have that one?
Next agenda.
Next agenda, Cultural Arts Commission.
Next agenda as well.
Next agenda, and Tree and Park Commission. Seeing none, we'll move that to the next agenda as well. Just to add to this very quickly, I would like to ask staff to prepare a resolution to nominate Jeff Phillips for our MEAG voting delegate for the next meeting, because we need a resolution for that. With that, we move into reports and operations by the city manager.
I don't have anything operationally. Obviously, we got two council members that are traveling, and we've attempted to remote them in. I kind of got them on a phone system here. For some reason, we couldn't get the Teams operations to working. We may try it, but if we can't communicate, it may not work. But I just want to let you know that I'm trying.
Oh, yeah. And we appreciate it. I think we all understand the technical issues of everything all the time.
Do you hear anything, Scott?
Yeah, barely. It's muffled.
Yeah.
I heard it better on the Teams call.
Okay. What about you, Jan?
I can hear, but yes, it is muffled. I can definitely hear you, Cleta, but
Okay.
I can't really hear anybody else.
And that's only because I'm beside the...
Yep. All right, well, fair enough, and I appreciate y'all calling in even while you're traveling. Reports and communications from the mayor. First off, I wanted to thank everybody for being here, but also just wanted to thank everybody on the council for your work on our, as we saw with the minutes of our work session. We had a great work session. We're working through our comprehensive plan. We had a very involved and I think a positive and productive conversation about how we're moving the city forward and how we can best support the people and families of Newnan. So I want to thank everybody for that. And then just encourage everybody who is, either watching at home or whoever reads about this to get involved in that comprehensive plan project and, review where we are going as a city. It is very important that you know what the future holds or what we think it'll hold. So thanks to everybody for all your work, and thanks to staff for all the work that you put in on that. I know sometimes we can be a lot, but it's because we care about the city, and I know y'all do too. Moving on from that, we move into new business. Item F, consideration of a work program related to sidewalk improvement project 2026.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I'm not going to read from the agenda item, but the end of 2025, this body adopted an update to the bike ped plan, which was previously adopted with a number of first-year initiatives in there, principally, providing sidewalk gap construction in areas that were identified by some of the council at the time, as well as the community and other stakeholder groups, as well as some maintenance projects. And so what I'm seeking today, or what staff is seeking from you today, is confirmation of the ordering of the gap segments. We believe we can complete all of the maintenance pieces, so there's portions of sidewalk throughout the city we've identified that are cracked or broken, and so the team has helped do that. They're listed here. We want to proceed with all of that, but what we're looking for is confirmation from this body to allow us to work with integrated science and engineering, of which our colleagues are here in the audience, in order of priority to fill the gap at Greason Trail first, Lee Street second, Savannah Street third, and then come down to Madison Street, East Washington Street. The ordering of those is, as I defined in the item, is around buildability, meaning the ease of construction. There's some conflicts with utilities. There's a lot of needed walls, for instance, on East Washington Street, where Greason Trail, Lee Street, Savannah don't have as much challenge. Some of these require easement acquisition. We've also looked at it for the amount of pedestrians moving through those spaces now. And then Madison Street, there's a new owner of a piece of property there. Behind that, if you can get in your mind's eye, that kind of 6-foot tall brick wall there by the old city jail. And it's my opinion that we need not spend money there when that development may come and we tear it up after we build it. So I'd like to put that one on pause. That's why it's down towards the bottom of the list. But that's what we're looking for. You have Megan showing you some of the ideas and those sidewalk sections for the gaps. But the Greasing Trail has been a long-needed gap project for a while. We've had some new development of sidewalk along Greasing Trail with townhome communities and such, but this will fill some of those gaps. So if you're at East Broad Street, you can get all the way down to the fire training facility safely on a sidewalk. Lee Street, from the back of the Wadsworth Auditorium down to, the Railroad District area, not Ball Pell Street, Andrew Street, thank you, audience. And Savannah Street will connect from Pinson up to the Howard Warner Community Center and then pick up again in front of the Cathy building and take it all the way up to Wall Street. And so there's some gaps in there we'd like to fill. And then again, we're not saying we won't do the others, we just think these other three we can deliver this year if we get your blessing.
So I have a question.
Yes,
On
ma'am.
Grayson Trail in particular, you've got sidewalk on 2 different sides of the street.
Mm-hmm.
So which side of the street are we gonna do?
We're going to build on if you're leaving from the BP at
The
East
roundabout.
Broad and Greason roundabout,
Mhm.
and you go towards the newer roundabout, we'll build sidewalk on the left, and then we'll actually cross the road. So we'll continue on the left side down, and then Megan can show, there it is right there. We'll come where the chief is standing is kind of the roundabout at BP, and we'll continue with sidewalk, the yellow area, and then we'll have a crossing that'll get over and connect to the other side of the road where their existing sidewalk is, in front of those townhomes. And that gets you down to that newer roundabout.
Okay, and that takes us past the apartments that are there.
Yes, ma'am.
That used to be, something starts with P, I can't remember anyway.
Preserve.
yes,
Preserve. Yes,
yes.
you're correct again.
Um,
So it connects those two pieces. Now, in the future, we also would like to continue Greasy Trail up to the county jail, too. So we're just doing bits and pieces. But this came out of the bike ped plan. These were the 5 priority gap projects identified in the plan. They're in the budget, a capital item in the general fund.
and so my other question is, did you base that based on how much sidewalk is already on the sides of the streets based on those developments?
Yeah, I mean, not particularly that,
Okay.
but yeah, that's part of it. There's that buildability, the ease of it. We feel like this is a good, people have been walking on the shoulder of this road as long as I've lived in Newnan, and you guys have identified it.
Where they walk.
Yeah, and so we want to fill this gap, and we feel like we can fill this gap. There's no parcel acquisition, no easement acquisition needed on this, so we feel like it's kind of low-hanging fruit, and we can get this one done. The same with Lee, may have one easement we need, and then a couple on Savannah, but we feel like the neighborhood would love, they're great connectors too, through those
They are.
communities.
They are. I totally agree that this is a priority for
I have,
making our city a walkable city.
I have a couple question comments.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way to do this project without crossing the street? Again, just to minimize pedestrian traffic going across, because some people go, that's a busy road going down that hill there.
That's right, yeah, that's a good question.
Just for the pedestrian safety.
Yes, so yes, we could do it. It would involve potential acquisition of right-of-way as well as probably some walls. There's a steep grade if we were to continue on that side, the balance of the road down to the roundabout. And it's a pretty long length. There's existing sidewalk on the other side of the road we feel like we can connect to.
Okay.
And we would put one of those rectangular rapid flashing beacons here that we've used throughout the city.
You push the button and it.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's perfect.
Yeah. Anytime you're crossing the road, in a busy that can be a very busy road.
Good point.
Just want to make sure that, my other kind of wish would be, if we could build these to almost link standards and at some point be able to connect it all into, if it's already built to link standards, have it a link. But I know that a whole lot wider, again, wishful thinking.
Yeah.
But thank you. That looks like a good, it's going to be a good project once it's done.
So just to be clear, as you were kind of picking these, the priority on this, is it primarily out of ease of building?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Constructability, yeah, for all those factors I said.
Yeah.
And labeled earlier, yes, sir.
Fantastic. And as we move forward, so are we going to see kind of a compounding of
Hopefully, yeah.
difficulty
that's the goal.
on these?
Well, yeah, I mean, we joke in the office, the reason why there aren't sidewalks on East Washington is because it's hard to put sidewalks on East Washington.
Yeah.
There's a lot of utility conflicts. It developed organically over time. Not that it won't happen, it's just challenging.
Yeah. Very good. And are those kind of challenges that we're working on ahead of time so that maybe we can...
Yeah, like I said, these are the three I think we can get done in this calendar year. We will keep the others on the list. I want to deliver something per the plan, per this year's budget.
No, I think that's great. I just want to make clear for everybody, that at some point we might get some more difficult pieces and don't want to shock anybody with that.
If I could, I just had this thought. And I'd mentioned this before when we were first starting the link about putting like fiber, a conduit just under the sidewalk. Again, so it's kind of hardened, it's kind of, to make it, would it make sense to have conduit going from like the fire training center back up? So at some point we could connect it, connect the different portions where we might have like a backup to our systems and stuff like that, and the police systems. Because we've talked about it before, different places and.
Yeah, there are logical places for that, and we could certainly take a look at it.
Yeah.
Without adding too much cost.
Yeah.
I know it's a whole lot cheaper to put it in during construction than to go back and retro.
Yeah, better put in the outlets while the walls are down, right? That's all right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept this work program?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. On to item G, consideration of a formal event permitting process.
Nope, totally forgot. Nope, totally forgot. Pull it up on the website.
Okay. Well, kind of while she's pulling it up. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, I'm Abigail Strickland. I'm the Main Street Manager and the Staff Liaison for the Downtown Development Authority. Tonight, I'm here to share some recommendations regarding downtown event coordination, street closures, and the use of public spaces. One of the reasons Main Street programs exist is to foster a vibrant downtown, one that attracts visitors, supports local businesses, encourages investment, and provides a place for a community to gather and celebrate. Over the years, the work of the DDA, the Main Street City, and our downtown businesses, we have created exactly that. Downtown Newnan has become a recognizable destination and a place where people want to host events, which is a great reflection of success in our community. However, with that, success comes with responsibility to protect the downtown experience and the brand that we've worked so hard to build. When events take place downtown, visitors often assume the event is being hosted by the Main Street program, even when they're privately organized. Tonight's presentation is not a finalized policy, but rather recommendations from the DDA based on discussions, research, and the challenges that we're currently seeing. Our goal is to begin a collaborative conversation with the city leaders and develop a process that works for everyone. We can go to the next one. Over the past few years, we've seen a significant increase in requests for street closures, parking closures, and events within the downtown district. Again, this reflects the success of downtown, but the current process was not designed for the level of activity that we are experiencing. Some of the challenges include scheduling conflicts with established downtown events, impacts to parking and accessibility for businesses and customers, increased coordination across city departments, and lack of consistent review process before requests come before council. The goal is to create a process that allows us to continue supporting events while making sure requests are evaluated consistently and the impacts are understood upfront. The goals of the process are fairly simple: create predictability, protect downtown accessibility, support economic vitality, improve communication, ensure fairness and transparency, and better coordination of the use of public spaces. The recommendations that follow are designed around those goals. The proposed process creates a clear path for a request from submissions through approval. First would be a formal application process so that all requests are submitted consistently with the information needed for review. Next, we would have a staff review involving the Main Street DDA, Public Safety, and City Management, and any other departments that might be impacted by the request. From there, fees and conditions could be established based on levels of impact and resources required. Larger events such as significant closures would continue moving forward to City Council approval, while smaller, lower impact requests could potentially be handled administratively through a tiered classification system. Finally, applicants would be responsible for notifying affected merchants, property owners, and when an event is expected to make impact parking, access, or normal business operations. The tiered system is intended to match the level of review with the level of impact. A Tier 1 event would be a lower impact request with minimal operation needs, and it could potentially be handled administratively with a nominal application fee. Tier 2 events would involve additional impacts such as limited closures or additional coordination, requiring a higher level of review and associated costs. And Tier 3 would include major closures, large attendance, or significant city resources, and would continue to require City Council approval. The purpose of this is to create a proportional system so that smaller events are not overburdened, while larger events are appropriately account for the resources that they're being used. The fee structure at this point, no fees have been finalized. These are just simply areas where we think fees could be potentially considered. Possible fees could include application fees, parking closure fees, street closure fees, public safety and operational support costs, and cleanup or damage deposits when necessary. The intent is not to create a barrier, but to ensure that when the public resources are required, those costs are appropriately considered and structured based on the impact of the event. Next one. As downtown activity continues to grow, we need a way to address scheduling conflicts. Potential tools that could include priority consideration for established community events and officially sanctioned downtown events, and/or blackout dates around a major events, buffer times between events, or limitations on simultaneous events when they create operational challenges. The goal is coordination, not exclusivity. We want events to complement one another and protect the overall downtown experience. Another recommendation is the creation of a rolling annual downtown event calendar. The calendar would first establish dates for city-sponsored events, including Main Street events, leisure services programming, cultural arts commission, etc. Those dates or consideration would be given to established signature privately hosted events that have become important to our community's calendar. Once established, future applicants could review availability for investing time and resources into planning an event and creating more predictability for everyone involved.
Abigail, quick question. What specifically is a signature privately hosted event? An example of that?
Well, just because it's on the mind at the front porch fest could be one.
Okay. All right.
Since it's come back.
Thank you.
And then, of course, an important part of any consistent process is also identifying situations where requests may be modified, delayed, or denied. Examples could include conflicts with established events, significant impacts in businesses or public safety, insufficient time to review, excessive demands on city resources, duplicate programming, or failure to meet application requirements. This allows decisions to be made consistently and provides applicants with expectations up front.
A quick question on that one. Sorry. On the denials side of that, would there be an appeal process for that, like at least for the tier, because Tier 3 comes to us, so we are the final. Tier 1, administratively, yes or no, but like the Tier 2, would there be an appeal process to that at all?
There definitely could be. This is just recommendations that the DDA has come up with, so nothing is finalized at this point. But that could be something that could be definitely be added in if need be.
Yeah,
so would you recommend the appeal come to City Council if administratively if it was denied, or? Well,
I'm just kind of look at best practice, see if it would be even practicable. Okay. I mean, if it's too burdensome or cumbersome, maybe it's not. Depending on the size of it, because a Tier 2 it's a big tier. Mm-hmm. And some things are kind of just barely Tier 2, and other things are like almost pure Tier 3. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and I actually think we probably have to have an appeal, and I'll defer to our city attorney. But one of the issues I want us to kind of go through on some of this is some of the boundaries of the First Amendment here. But I know that in there's a Chicago case where they had an appeal process and a deadline or a permitting deadline that were part of the reason that scheme was upheld was because they did have a way to get around the process and a deadline by which you had to let them know whether they got it or not. Mm-hmm. So I think that would probably be best practice.
Sure.
Okay. And very likely required.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be at it. As a part of review, we looked at how other communities are approaching event management and the use of public spaces, including special event permit processes from the City of Gainesville and Lawrenceville. In your packet, you can click on these. and review them. And then also a more comprehensive special event guide and policies developed at the City of Venice in Florida. These examples provide framework for the types of components that could be considered, including applications, review criteria, fees, event classifications, and operational guidelines. The items presented tonight are recommendations from the DDA based on review of current challenges, conversations with staff, and the research processes being used by other communities. This is not intended to be a finished policy, but rather a starting point for creating a process. The DDA recognizes that downtown continues to grow, and the more requests come forward, the more formal process is needed to ensure consistency, transparency, and the coordination moving forward. We understand that it's still important to work through some of these details, particularly the appeals, and defining what should be a policy versus procedure and how the process applies across different types of events, including city-sponsored events as well as private events. Our recommendation is that city management, Main Street, and DDA, public safety, and other appropriate departments work together to develop details such as application process, fee structure, approval thresholds, and operational procedures, and bring back a more refined recommendation for consideration. The goal is definitely not to limit any events. The goal is to create a framework that allows us to continue supporting a vibrant downtown while ensuring events are coordinated and businesses are considered and the public resources are managed responsibly. Downtown Newnan has been successful because people want to be here. We want to continue to encourage that energy while protecting the experience, the businesses, and the resources that make downtown special. That's all I have. Thank you.
Abigail, great report. Hey, would you read one thing? I want to say it's 2 or 3 paragraphs back up. And I think it was, well, I don't know if we're ready for a motion, but if there is a motion, I think I like what it does. Almost frames a motion, but it talked about the next steps. Would you kind of go back several paragraphs?
Yeah, the next step, of course, would be our recommendation is that city management, Main Street DDA, public safety, and other appropriate departments work together to develop further details of this process. You know, work out the fee structure, work out the application, work out an appeal process, et cetera, and bring that back to council.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, whenever you're ready, I'd like to make the...
I'm happy to go ahead and entertain that motion. I have a couple of further comments.
Keep doing that. Yeah, I like what you worded that.
I appreciate it. And I want to echo Councilman Thompson here. I think that this is a fantastic thing. It's something we've obviously been talking about a great deal over the last few months as we've seen an increase in events and, the popularity of downtown. And I want to, commend all the work that y'all have done, all the work that council has done feeding into this because it is extremely necessary. And like I said, y'all have come up with something really good here. One thing I just wanted to flag, like I did with the appeal process, I do think this would definitely bear a review by the city attorney. I know that there's a couple pieces of language in here that I wanted to make sure we didn't get tripped on. So there's preference may be given and could waive fees language that gives us a lot of discretion, and discretion is a problem when it comes to the First Amendment. There's also a public safety staffing piece in terms of fees that raises the issue of a heckler's veto or a potential heckler's veto, where if we have a high cost because of a controversial event, that could become a problem. So we want to make sure that there's something kind of standardizing that so that we're not, we're not keeping anybody from speaking in a way we don't like with that cost. And then there's a little bit of the scope here when it comes to things like protests. We have had a number of protests in the square and things like that. I think that that's something to make sure that we're clear on the scope of and what this reaches. There's also one thing that Mr. Phillips and I have discussed, and I've talked with some of the other members on council about, is using. I think there's a good opportunity for us to review some of our noise ordinances and how we approach those, because for example, when we have one of the biggest conflicts we're going to have is amplified noise on these, and so that would be something to consider as part of this. But again, aside from those, annoying lawyer things and the, this noise ordinance bit, I really appreciate y'all putting together a fantastic and well thought out and thorough starting point for this.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, Mr. Thompson.
I move that I really want to adopt exactly what you said. I move that the staff work with Main Street staff and the city attorney and other organizations and other departments as you presented to develop kind of the next version for us to consider.
And Mr. Thomas, if I could, you said other departments, but also like back to the DDA, get input from the DDA.
Yes.
Which is an authority.
Yes, and authorities.
So do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. All right. Thank you so much. With that, we move on to Item H, rezoning request for RZ 2026-01 by Brian Witcher, .16 plus or minus acres located at 125 Temple Avenue, tax parcel N21-0002-012, requesting zoning of CHV, heavy commercial district for a used automotive dealership. This is purely informational. All right. Oh, that's, okay, well, then we can move on.
Just for clarification,
yeah.
since this may be some of the council members' first time hearing it for information only, a rezoning application has a constitutional right to actually be heard and be processed. We've always used this process, and it's actually stated in the ordinance, to simply make an announcement that it's coming. At this point in time, there's been absolutely no analysis of the application, no information gathering of the application, just the application, just a FYI that the application is going to the planning commission and a recommendation will be coming back to this body.
Very good.
Just try to explain that.
All right, very good. So there's an application for .16 acres,
Yeah.
about 1/6 of an acre, located at 125 Temple Avenue to be rezoned for a heavy commercial district for a used automotive dealership. And thank you so much. We'll move on to item I. Consideration to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Newnan Urban Redevelopment Agency on the HUD EDI program.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you for hearing me tonight. The agreement that's before you is an agreement essentially to authorize and adopt formal policies and procedures for how the NURA will operate under the new construction program for the HUD grant as it ramps up activity over the next 2 months.
Very good.
I've got a couple of questions. The agreement is very similar to what we did with Murray Street and all that, and I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's a great one, but I do have some questions about making sure that we can work with other organizations in our community that may be able to get down from 120%, because right now we're really operating at the very top of that. And some of this is, like for instance, I know that the Habitat, Newnan Coweta Habitat for Humanity has been looking at getting involved in this, but there was some conversation that I didn't quite follow about how their mortgage portfolio actually works and holding the mortgage versus doing third-party lending and to get the money going back into the system. And so I'm wondering if y'all had any more conversations with Newnan Coweta Habitat, because right now they are the builder that is getting to some of the lower income, closer to the median, because right now we're talking about still above the median income, whereas Habitat is below the median income, so that we can provide this service to more of our workers in our community who need this type of homeownership opportunity.
Yeah, the last conversation on that topic happened within the last 9 months, roughly. The door always remains open for Habitat to come in and join the party if they'd like to. More or less on your portion that you were discussing on the program income side of things, or the collection of the mortgages after the fact. The third-party lending preference is more or less to continue to speed that process along so that we can rapidly go in and do acquisitions and new constructions. Whereas the existing Habitat model, they would do collections, and then, for example, with the NSP program, every 6 months they send us what their collections were over a period. Right. They have roughly, I think, 20 to 30 homes in that program, so we get about 35,000 every 6 months on NSP. With the small scale of HUD, we'd probably be looking at a much lower amount of that. Now, they have, with their ARPA program, been able to find a third-party lender that was able to purchase the mortgage from them, so they were able to generate the income faster that way. So if they're able to do that same thing, which the biggest thing for us is we did not want them to break their model for the sake of the program if it was problematic to their agency. But the opportunity is always there. Okay,
so this does not preclude them from, hey, we figured out a way to do this.
Absolutely.
Can we get involved?
They're always welcome to try to get involved.
Okay, good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept as intervote?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. All right. With that, we move on to item J, discussion of the millage rate for the 2026 budget.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, City Council, good evening. Hope y'all are doing well. We put together some materials for you as part of your agenda to give you some information that we received a few weeks ago from the tax commissioner related to the digest. You'll notice that the digest only increased 1.78%, so it's very low. This year is a little different with the adoption of the FLOST. Now they've calculated what's called a normal rollback millage rate. That was 3.068. And then they take that rollback and they've rolled back 5 months of our SPLOST collections. So now what they call the final rollback millage rate is 1.177. So city staff is really looking for some direction from council, because next month we're going to need to establish a millage rate. And when we put together our budget at the end of last year, the voters had just voted for the SPLOST, and we calculated that we thought that those returns would be about $12 million. So we put that in, put that in our budget and made those allocations. Since that time, there's been legislative changes, and the timing of the FLOST dollars is now this 5-month period, which is roughly $4.9 million. We've received those funds. They're sitting in a separate fund for us to be able to move over. The problem lies in that we allocated the full 12 months. So we've got to figure out what to do as it relates to establishing that millage rate for this budget cycle that we're in now. I mean, we're 7.5 months into this budget. And, if we establish the millage rate of that $7 million, we would be advertising an increase of 132%. If the council wants to look at just advertising this final rollback, which is the 1.177 millage rate, that would show a 0 tax rate increase, but we would still have a shortfall in this year's budget of about $4 million. So we're trying to get some direction from council so that we know, do we need to advertise any tax rate increase, because we'll have to have 3 meetings to do that, or what does this ordinance that we need to adopt in August need to look like? And y'all probably want to have some discussion, and we're here, Cletus and I, and Oscar are certainly here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. So, can I speak to this for a second? So one thing I want to clarify, because I think it's hard to track this just by hearing about it and what was just said. Essentially, the state and the voters decided to implement a sales tax that would offset completely and then some their property taxes. The state came back not too long ago and told us something accounting. I'm not allowed to touch the accounting pages. I'm a lawyer. So I'm not getting too hung up on any of that. But essentially the accounting trick here is that we're only allowed to count under their direction, or what they've told us is that we can only count part of that sales tax for the year. I do want to commend our representative, Matt Brass, who put in something much more sensible than this in the original legislation, and then for some reason this got trimmed back to the 6 months. But functionally, the question is whether we should implement some kind of property tax, even though the voters expect there not to be a property tax and are correct to not expect that, because of this accounting error, or whether we should plow ahead and ignore or take into advisement some of this nonsense that we've been told by the state. And I do want to say, while I say nonsense, I am truly frustrated, and I think a lot of people in local government are truly frustrated with how this process has been carried out by the state legislature, the way that this has been implemented, and the fact that we are now dealing with this weird accounting nonsense that does not reflect the reality, which is, the reality is we have collected and will collect everything we need to run our budget. I believe that we should act as such, my opinion on this, and just that this is largely, again, an accounting fiasco that is being foisted on us because of bad planning. Mr. Phillips, if you could weigh in.
Well said, Mayor. I think the fact of the matter is we established a 12-month budget beginning in January based upon a prior piece of legislation. The fact of the matter is that during the budget year, from January to December of 2026, we will collect approximately $12 million. And for the same budget year in which we're setting the millage rate, going to ask you to set a millage rate, we have the ability to set the millage rate at zero because we have $12 million that we would have collected or will collect for that budget year. Certainly, I'm going to recommend that we advertise a zero millage rate. I believe we have the funds. We are using the funds for the purposes stated in the statute to reduce property taxes. And since the funds are going to be collected during the budget year, I believe that's what we should do. That would be my recommendation, Mayor and Council.
I agree with that recommendation.
No question.
I've got a
Councilwoman
couple
Jenkins.
of questions. You've answered one of them, which is, will we have the 12 million by the time? So that's there. 2, is this a function of lots of other communities having fiscal years that start July 1, going to June 30, whereas ours does not, and therefore they're applying one thing to communities that don't have that?
That is somewhat partially correct. Coweta County is a good example. Even though the floss started collections with the county the same time we started, because it's the same 1 cent sales tax program, their budget year is October 1. So therefore, when floss was approved, they were in a prior year budget that projected no floss proceeds. So they had 9 months in order to account for what the floss proceeds will be. So they're in a little bit different situation. So yes, you are correct. Another portion of what I believe happened for the legislative session is when you set your millage rate in August, there's still 5 months of property tax collections that we get to apply for that year's budget, but we don't have them yet. So therefore, when we show a millage rate history report and we're estimating what that 5 months is going to be. I think I heard from Senator Brass that the reason when he requested a full year and it was because they wanted us to use actual numbers. My position was I can always file a report to show that we actually use 100% of the proceeds. So I think it's a combination of things. And maybe not understanding local government exactly as well.
I'll leave that alone. And my last question is this an interpretation of what, or a policy versus an actual law that's passed?
That's a good question. I may defer to Mr. Sears. Mr. Sears and our city auditor actually had a call last week to discuss the language in the statute. The language in the statute purely talks about using the prior 6 months or revenues collected prior to July 1, which in our case would be 6 months this year, for the purpose of setting your millage rate. The statute does not talk at all about the use of the funds or the accounting structure of the funds. Okay. So therefore, the recommendations from DOR as far as the accounting and the use of the funds is a rule, and they acknowledge that was not in statute.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Because I'm ready to go with the city manager's recommendation.
I have one question. So to your knowledge, and I support your recommendation, to your knowledge, is there any recourse against us if we proceed with the zero?
Mr. Sears?
Well, what the statute says is that if any political subdivision is not in compliance with the use of the proceeds of a tax levied under this article, the commissioner shall not certify the tax digest of such political subdivision until it complies with the code section. So now the problem with that is what is the nature of the application? of the proceeds. And I'm still not sure, I guess, completely, as Cletus says, when you bleed over from what the statute says to what the rule says, is how does DNR come up? Now, and I'm not sure how this works now. You know, our digest is all part of the county digest, which is separated out. So the county comes up with the digest. So if they don't approve our digest, they don't approve the county digest. Do you think? I'm not sure how.
I don't believe that is the case, because we submit our own individual city forms to the tax commissioner. The county has a different form, so I do believe ours would be.
From the form standpoint, but you get the information from the same assessors group, right?
We do.
Yeah.
I guess the point I was making, if the digest isn't certified, you got a zero millage rate, you're not collecting any.
Anyway.
So
it's a good
that's
question.
interesting, right, I got you.
And all I can do is quote the statute.
So, great, so if I heard you, the penalty is you can't collect on your millage rate. Is that the penalty? Okay, if you're
Well,
billing,
if you can't certify
in
the
this
digest,
case, if
you
your
can't
millage rate is
tax it.
zero, it's a moot point.
That's what it appears to be the penalty.
That's very interesting, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we have set aside methods to reduce the property taxes for our citizens.
Which was the
And
intent
we're
of the
going
legislation.
to do actually that.
Yep, right, yep. We need to give it back to them.
So, I mean, while they figure out their foolishness, let's just do the right thing.
Yeah. And I do, you know, again, I want to highlight that this is, I think, something that the citizens have trusted us with, that we would be, you know, responsible with this, you know, again, this influx of sales tax that's been positive for our budget, and I think overall a great thing. I've mentioned this before, and in the press, that you know, one of the things that I was surprised by during my campaign last year was the number of people who are truly burdened by the property tax, particularly in Newnan. We've seen, you know, fantastic growth. We've seen a lot of, you know, massive growth in Newnan, but that has meant that there are a lot of folks who paid off their homes a long time ago who are now paying taxes on a much higher assessment, and that is a burden, particularly to fixed income and working people. And so I am perfectly comfortable offsetting all of our property taxes with this sales tax, and but I would like to encourage the state to figure this out and to be a little bit more forward-thinking in terms of how these things will be implemented, so that we don't have to pretend as though we're collecting less money than we are and offset our property taxes less than we might have otherwise. But that being said, I would also say that we should follow the city manager's recommendation. Any further discussion?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Well, I
of
was going to say. So we got a motion, now discussion. I was going to say, appreciate staff, appreciate our city attorney, and you know, I'm looking into this. This has been quite a quagmire created, and then continued on. So I appreciate your diligence and hard work getting this remedied and worked out, because it is truly the right thing to do. Because people voted for this, for their property tax.
Right, with that, we have a motion and a second to adopt the adoption, or the recommendation of the...
Yeah, what we would do with this motion, it would simply give us direction to put the advertisement, and we'll bring the millage rate ordinance back to you on August 12th.
Yes, and all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. With that, we move into the communications audit. Item K, recommendations therefrom.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. At the May 12 City Council meeting, our communications consultant, Ms. Perry, shared a presentation with you, and you asked us to follow up with our actionable steps. So our first order of business will be to hire a public information officer for the police department. We also plan to relaunch our City Council communications highlights on our social media channels. We're going to be working on an internal social media policy for our staff, promoting ongoing collaboration between departments, and we're following Ms. Perry's recommendation to include printed materials, which you'll see we've included the 2025 annual report for your pleasure to read. And that's all I have. So what questions do you have for me?
Well, I have a question about the first one. Hiring a post-certified PIO for the police department.
Yes, sir.
Would that mean taking a police officer that we already have and getting the public information training, or getting somebody post-certified? It seems like a kind of almost a mix here to have post-certification and all of that to go into somebody that's, are they even really a police officer? Would it be a police officer or not?
So it's my understanding this is very common within police departments to have someone who's post-certified then go to GIPSTEC, take the training for PIO. So Chief Blankenship may be able to speak a little more to that.
Please do.
That's what I was.
It is normal for most of law enforcement departments to have a sworn PIO, an officer that fills that role, who's speaking to media, who's speaking to the public who's out there. That is the normal.
So they'd be a sworn police officer in uniform.
It would be somebody whom we've had that has worked, has done the job, and that would be the individual, but they are sworn.
Okay.
And you'll see it when you see other counties. If you see, DeKalb or LaGrange or Carrollton, or many of the others, you'll see the officer. Majority of the time, if you ever see him on the media, on the news, that is the PIO. That's the officer speaking.
If I may, Chief and Ms. Haddon have actually worked together to develop a training schedule, both under the police certification programs, under regular communication programs. So it would not just be the movement of a police officer and calling them a PAO. That we've got an actual work structure for the different training programs to become an expertise in police communication. So
okay.
And also we actually will. I have funds are available, so there would not be any budget processes due to the vacancies that we've experienced this year. So we got a plan that they have put together. I believe it would be a really good benefit for the department.
So this sworn officer basically, would we work in hand in glove with Ms. Haddon
and
the
correct.
staff?
That is
Okay,
correct.
great.
All right. Any further discussion, questions? If not, do we have a motion to accept these recommendations?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. With that, we move into visitors, petitions, communications, and complaints. Item L, a request from Joe Wright for street closures on April 10th, 2027 for Throttle Junkie Spring Rally. And you've been here before, but thank you for coming back and having the meetings that we requested. And,
Thank you for having me back.
Very good. Chief, also, could you let us know, I don't know if you have anything to speak on, or if we...
Chief and I met and came to an agreement on everything, and
Very good.
I think we were good.
Yeah, we had a good meeting at the office. We worked through this. So as far as the security and the traffic plan and all goes, as this map shows, we're in good shape. We're good.
Very good. With that, do we have a motion to approve this request?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, carries unanimously. Thank you so much, and apologies for making you
That's
come
all
back,
good.
but
Thank you, Mayor.
make
Thank
sure
you,
all
Council.
our I's were dotted and T's were crossed. All right, with that, we move into item M, a motion to enter into executive session. Councilman Thomason, would you read the statement?
Sure will. I move that we now enter into a closed session as allowed by OCGA 50-14-4 and pursuant to advice of the city attorney for the purposes of discussing real estate and legal, and that we in open session adopt a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor or presiding officer to execute an affidavit in compliance with OCGA 50-14-4, and that this body ratify the actions of the council taken in a closed session and confirm that the subject matters of the closed session were within exceptions permitted by the open meetings law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing none opposed, we move into executive session.